All right, what's good, everybody? I was like, here I'm going to be talking about them San Antonio Spurs. Now, before I get into necessarily the off-season guide and stuff like that, of what I think they should do, and what I do actually want to talk about the Spurs because I was like, out of all the teams, I was like, hey, they just was in the finals, ain't really nothing been talked about on my end about them, and I was like, I really wanted to talk about like a few points because, like, one, I was like, hey, I know if you probably like if some people don't see him, I would like read my Twitter or seen some videos here I have made where I would sound like some anti-Wemby stuff, and it's not necessarily anti-Wemby stuff because I was like Wemby. I was like, I really don't have a problem with it. I'm fine. I know that some people got some stuff with him not shaking the hands and, you know, and like his I like not even the antics. I was like antics on the court, but stuff that he does like outside the court or whatever, sketching the monks. I was like, I just sort of said, I was like, people are going in finding that stuff annoying. Anton on the court didn't really help as well. And the shaking of the hands, that to me, I was like, on one hand, I was like, I can understand that. I was like, you don't want to like shake hands. I don't necessarily think that you're a sore loser, as some people would say. You know, I was like, but I do think sports is sort of different, and also if everybody else is doing it, I also feel like, hey, you can do it here as well too. This is not something like a job promotion and you didn't get the job or something like that. I was like, yeah, I was like, this is something y'all always do or whatever. Now if you want to like let them have their moment maybe and do something at the game or something like that or whatever, cool, that whatever it is. But I think I think it's really just sort of a bad look of how even though Wimby does have this confidence, arrogance, whatever one that you the aisles you sit on, is that doing stuff with the monks and being like zen and sort of seeming like almost like you have a perspective about things that seem like a very like thoughtful or humbling way that hey, you might want to shake them hands because you would seem like that goes with you. Now I already know some people gonna just listen to this and be like, see, already you sound like you some anti-Spur person or whatever like that, and I might have ran some people off. But I was like, but we'll get past that. One, I will say that De'Aaron Fox did not have a good series at all. And I think people that are already trying to trade him, we already know the contract is going to come up, so it's going to be hard to trade him in general. I actually think that's a bad move. I think that, to be honest, I was like, Dylan Harper, and I was like, the thing talking about like of the minutes, to me is a minutes issue, not a thing about starting. I don't think that Dylan Harper should start on this squad, and I think De'Aaron Fox is still the best way to go. De'Aaron Fox to me is still more of a point guard than Dylan Harper is. Dylan Harper, I would like, don't get me wrong, Fox is a scoring guard, but Dylan Harper is nothing but a scoring guard. I also think that Fox still has has a better jump shot than I would like Harper, especially at this moment. I also think that it works better with the flow of the team. This is a situation where I actually feel like the Spurs being when they used to have Parker and Ginobili, this is actually sort of a similar situation where I feel like De'Aaron Fox should play. I was like in the starting unit, and Dylan Harper should be the guy that comes off the bench where he could do nothing but score. He could do nothing but attack. This is his squad. He do all this other stuff. But Dylan Harper, I was like with Fox to me. I was like, while he's there, but I think that because of his shooting and taking jump shot from all over, because I was like, that's also too. Fox can hit the mid range at a way that Dylan Harper isn't there yet. And I'm like, if you're gonna have him beside Castle, who is not at this level of like an offensive guy jump shooting, and is more of a guy that goes to the hole, Fox is a better guy to balance that out with than it is with Dylan Harper, who right now him and Castle isn't going to be in that same way. So why not just play Castle with the second? I mean, not the Castle. Play Harper with the second unit, and you can have those two there. I was like, so I think that just works better for the team that is constructed to actually keep Fox there. And I think that Fox, I was like, I do think there was some stuff of Fox being like supposed to be like the second guy, got the contract, and fully not over his ankle, but playing like it in such a way that did not help. Don't get me wrong, I can't explain some of the turnover that was going on in that situation compared to missing jump shots and stuff like that. Um, but I think that you're good with this guard rotation. I think I was like Carter Bryant is going to be somewhere in that 3-4. I was like when they play small ball, he'll be like probably a 4 range of this team. Harrison Barnes got his spot really taken by Penny. And to be honest, the squad should just all come back. That's what I'll say, flat point blank. Period. Is this squad should basically all come back. I was like, I think you're just gonna have to figure out the minutes. But to me, the minutes won't necessarily be hard. I think where it's gonna be hard is you have 6 guys who all sort of need. And I was like, by the 6, I mean Castle, who I said Fox, Harper, but you also got Vessel, Johnson, and Sam Penny, who I think they should sign and bring back. Um, if they, I was like, and if they keep the crew together, how do you play all 6 of them along with Carter Bryant? So you might have to say that somebody, either Vassell or Johnson, is going to be the guy to go, because I was like, I can't imagine they let Champagny go after the season he had for them. But I was going to say, if anybody, he is the guy that's a free that you don't have to sign back, and somebody is going to try to buy. I mean, somebody's going to buy the services of Champagny for a price that, while yes, the Spurs don't have anybody really on the payroll, that do you want to do that for like such a guy, because he's going to be in demand or whatever. But I was like, to whereas Vassell and Johnson you got to trade for, and I was like, guess what, the Spurs just coming off a final, they're going to want something for those guys as well too. So do you I was like, I think they should pay Champagny, but will they? I was like, will they? Now comes to the other point of the team. What do they do to improve? And I think where the part that they need to improve on, I think where it sort of hurt them. And I was like, and this is all about how I think the new NBA is really about matchup, but being able to play with different matchups. And where they lost with the Knicks was they can play big if you want to play big, but they're also their guards and forwards are big. I did it when I did a video who I was going to pick between the Knicks and the Spurs. I was talking about how like OG is 6'8" at the power forward spot. You might think that's small, except for he's like 230. And it's like that's a different type of small than Sam Penny, who was there 6'6", but is also like 210. 220, somewhere around. I was like probably more 210. But you get what I'm saying. Like the guys that they got playing at those spots are small than like the Knicks guys. And this would play out in a couple of other matchups as well too. So I was like, who do you get for necessarily that 4 spot? And I think that's where they sort of need some people there. That I was like, the one I've seen people say, and I was like, and I'll use it because it's actually a really good spot, is Rui Hachimura. Now with that, if you get Rui Hachimura, Champagne's gone. I was like, you're basically trading one shooter for another shooter that's also bigger, that can play a little bit at center if you need to. So to me, I was like, you throw high money at him. Guess what? You're only really you're playing Fox. I mean, you're paying Fox and you're paying about to pay Victor. Outside of that, nobody else is there yet to where you can sign him on a contract long enough that when the other guys are about to come up, Rui's probably about on his way out, or Fox would be about 2 years in or something like that, because it's going to be about a 4-year contract kind of thing. So I think that would be a good pick. I was like, people have said that across the airwaves, so you can go and listen to them really talking about it. But it's really, I just sort of say he'll basically be your OG situation. Actually, he's 6'10", so he's actually a lot bigger than that. So he'll be your de facto OG in that situation. Now, I was like, if they can't get him, or too much money type of situation, I think another guy that he can look at is Dean Wade. He's a 6'9", but he's a little bit like smaller in frame, but he also gives you that same thing of like shooting, and he's tall enough and stuff like that to where it's not the same mismatch in that type of way. Now, he's not as fluid and moving as Sam Penny or Hachimura would be, or whatever. And I was like, you could say that shooting is all he really going to give you, but so is pretty much Champagny. And a lot of them, they just play with a little bit more effort and stuff. I was like, but I think he could be a cheaper option if you also want to get a little bit bigger and also have the same shooting threat. Uh, And then there's the sort of the thing with Wemby of, yes, this year I was like, I'm pretty sure his endurance will get better. I feel like, yes, his he will get some more strengthening and whatnot. But even then, I was like, he's 7'6", asking him to do a whole lot. I was like, he has been injured in some form or factor every year that you want to have some insurance. And listen, Plumlee and Olenek and Biombo are cool, but they're not people who are going to play in any form or facet or whatever. They're really just there for, into the bench minutes, veterans, mentorship, that type of thing. And while, yes, you could bring any one of those guys back, probably most likely Biombo, just because he's him and Victor seem like they're cool. And I'm very, I was like, then Plumlee and stuff like that. Olenek, I was like, I barely even seen. Um, I was like, but you want to have a third center just in case. Hey, Cornette, I was like, was very good during the season, and then during the playoffs, hey, everybody went at him. Which, of course, after Victor goes out, he's the guy to target. But at the same time, I was like, he didn't give you all that you also needed as well. Yes, there was a couple games where he had the flu, or being sick, I should say. But that doesn't really take away the fact that nothing happened. So with that, you need another center. Now, so I was like, after some other centers I think could be in play that also wouldn't be over here breaking the bank or nothing like that. I think Kevin Looney, a dude I was like, best days were with Golden State, had a year to not remember with the Pelicans. I was like, but a dude that you can throw in at center, I was like, still was good for some rebounds. Hey, I was like, if he's in the rotations of centers, that's fine. You can also play, I feel like you can also play him and Wemby if you need to, whereas like Wemby and Cornette, I'm surprised that they really didn't play around a lot with that grouping or whatever, just because Wemby is a threat to shoot the three, even though he's not a shooter in that same type of way. And the other guy, I think that also, like I said, wouldn't break the bank, but he could be in that rotation. Is Nick Richards, who is a guy who's bounced around. I was like, hey, got his big break with the Hornets. I was like, went to the Suns for a while, then he went to the Bulls. I was like, but 7-foot dude. I was like, can bring sort of the same thing that you could do with Cornette. I was like, can block some shots. I was like, play a bit of defense. He's in that good rotation. He's not going to break the bank. So I think those are like, because I was like, they just need mind. I was like, unless you get Rui, to everything else is sort of just a minor thing. And look, there's still the draft coming up as well too that they'll be able to make picks on as well. Um, so it's like they just need minor stuff here. I was like, fill out the bench. I think a little bit more. I was like, I mean, just with maybe with a little bit more seasoned guys who, if you need to, you can sort of throw them in. Where it's not totally Harrison Barnes, where you don't feel like he's not giving you anything worth to play him anymore. So a little bit more juice than that, or whatever. But also been, just veteran guys. That's sort of what they really need. They got enough young dudes that they're going to have in rotation. In general, I think it all just depends on if you want to pay Sam Penny or not, or you're going to trade one of the other two dudes in Johnson or Vessel. That's about it. But I was like, I think you go ahead. I was like, you think you keep the coach? I know people rambling about like firing him and stuff like that. I was like, no, you go ahead and keep the coach, um, or whatever. Maybe just put more veterans in that situation as well. Um, but I think the team's fine. The Spurs are on the uplook. Um, there's really nothing bad to really say about them. I think that they just hit a roller coaster of being like anti Thunder, and then they became anti themselves versus the Knicks. Um, yeah. So outside of that, Spurs in good shape. Small minor moves here and there. Like I said, Fox should stay as the starting point guard or whatever, because he's a scoring guard, but he's not a scorer in that type of way that some of the other teams are. But anyway, let me know what y'all think. If you made it this far for what I said at the beginning, people. But other than that, then in peace. I'm out.